Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters, where LDLC stay undefeated in the tournament. And Goldborg, I have to ask you the question, how's your prediction going?
Well, you know, okay, guys, I went 3-2, okay? So far, we got the one for LDLC, okay? And you know what I always say? When you're the loser coming into a best of 5, you actually have the luxury of knowing that on what to improve on. You know what mistakes you made, where the winning team, they're like, well, let's just try and do the same. So if the losing team finds the winning formula, well, then all of a sudden, it bounces back.
It looked pretty good for X7 in the early game.
It looked okay in the early game. I think the agency was on them to make it happen. I mean, if you look at the draft of LDLC, they're completely fine with the game going 40, 50, 60 minutes. That's actually what they drafted for. Yeah. In the end, it's pretty impressive to see how LDLC weathered that early game storm and then close out the game so fast, because you just lose 2-3 big fights and the game was already over. Yeah,
because talking about that draft, I want to dive into that, Dino. There's a certain remark you made about the last pick from LDLC.
Yeah. So what we've seen so far in the group stage is that LDLC, they like to go mid, AD carry, and jungle in the first rotation. The only moment they actually diverted from that is when Bisons did something really weird in draft. And again here, it's a bit weird. They see champions pop up that they haven't seen before. Even though they see Nocturne Vex, they decide to wait on Ica's pick, and they decide to keep it for the last pick, as they did against Bisons. Then it was an Orianna. Now it comes out with the Veigar, and that Veigar was a huge ticket to their composition.
And I actually think it was such a good thing to do. Again, a composition you see over on this side of X7, because on the first 3 picks, you kind of get the idea that, okay, this is all going to be about the backline dive coming in. You have the Vex, you have the Nocturne, keep it simple. Hold yourself in there. But then all of a sudden it gets a little bit disjointed with the composition. You have something where you want to kite a little bit. You want to come in with the Aatrox as well, who's very low range. And then the Veigar just comes in with the Event Horizon and will disrupt that. So you get this scenario where 2 members will jump in, Veigar sets the cage down, and all of a sudden Jinx, Yuumi, unless she's on the Nocturne, and Aatrox, just really get to play the fight. Yeah. So I thought it was a bit disjointed.
Now I do want to have a look at that Nocturne from Haru, because Haru, especially in that early game, which we already touched upon, is like, he was so, you know, he was there. He was everywhere, it seemed.
He needed to be. And the beautiful thing is, like, they know that they have the tendency on the side of LDLC that if they can pick up the Herald, they will. And they actually timed this engage perfectly. I do think LDLC could have executed a little bit better on the defense here. But in the end, Haru and Jaeger get the job done. And that's the most important part, because suddenly the Nocturne was alive.
It's the thing we see from them all the time. And even the way that this game went, and even how we saw that Yikes started taking over, it was still Haru in the early game who had Yikes' number. He was up in the jungle camps. He was up in the levels after this skirmish as well, and it seemed like the productivity that this composition required was initially there, but then they started maybe becoming a little too proactive.
Yeah, because it's crazy. There's actually one fight in particular, Dino, that led LDLC to victory.
It's a pretty big fight that they had in the middle of the lane. I do think that in general for LDLC it was the point to weather the storm, and I don't think the storm from X7 was harsh enough for them to be actually disjointed. I mean, if you look at how they played the game, for some reason LDLC they weather LFL teams. They play against teams like a Vitality B and a PDS Academy. If you don't get them behind far enough, they're always still in the game, and for some reason they were still even in gold.
Yeah, let's break that play down, wouldn't we?
I think it's worthy of breaking down. It's a play that happened in the middle of the game, and the important part to think about this play is how we got there, because we just saw the clips from Haru on his Nocturne trying to actually get the game open in a way that their team needs, because they have the agency if they want to go for the engage. While I'm waiting for the proper play to load, you will see that they have a Nocturne and a Yuumi, and what happened before the play actually happened is that minute 14:30-ish, they actually sat in the mid lane trying to attack the mid lane, but it didn't really work out how they wanted to. They were just waiting on the sides, and what happened then is they reset. They went to buy items because they really wanted this play to work, and I also really want this play to work, so we're working on actually changing out the clips. The important part to note here is that you see right now that Yike and Ike are clearing vision, but Doz is moving up from the minimap, and he's actually moving across vision. X7 still want to execute on Ica. That's the target. They want this Veigar down, but they just can't. They just don't have enough in the tank, and that's when LDLC comes online, because they have amazing disengage. They have a Xin Zhao. They have something like a Rakan. If you go in and you don't get the kills, if you burn your flash on the Vex just to engage on this champion and you don't kill him, then the play is lost. And this is a big turning point for LDLC in the game, and that's how they actually got it done.
Was it maybe a bit too greedy?
I think they really wanted to play. I think they telegraphed the play, and that's an issue. Like, they were there before, and then LDLC wasn't ready, and by the time they actually pulled the trigger, LDLC was in position.
So the way I really see this play coming out is just really how the composition functioned. Like, you have one side of the coin, which is that we have the backline dive. We need to be the one making the play. And you have the other side of the coin, which is LDLC, that we need to kite back. We need to come in with the disengage. And just as Dino showed on the telestrator, it becomes very difficult when enemy champions already have their account. They already have the Xin Zhao, loads of disengage in this kit. They don't have to be the aggressor. They can kite back. And I think you see the difficulties as well from the X7 composition when you point it into and against the LDLC composition. So I think the draft was, in the end, just too hard to play in LDLC. They had some really good adaptations where we just saw it in that play, how it functions.
And that's what we praise LDLC for as well, Donnie. You said that in the pre-show. LDLC always knows what you're going to do, what your next move is going to be.
It's a draft I really expected from LDLC. Even trading the Aphelios for Jinx in the bot lane, they like to look a little bit at what you're going to bring in the best of 5 and then adapt. But the problem is, even though they had a slower draft, they still won pretty fast. And this is a big issue for X7. If they execute like this on this draft, they can take over the series.
Look at that damage from a Xin Zhao, like from Yike as well. Can we talk about that? Yike had the most damage in the game in a composition where he's the disengager together with the other champions. Usually like this, you play around the Aphelios. We see the Aphelios have the highest damage percentage, or the Veigar because of how he functions, but it just explains the skirmishing style we see from LDLC. It's so much about coming together around Yike, and we were highlighting it in the pregame as well. This is a guy 2 years ago who was just chilling in some other European regional leagues. Then he was in French second division. Now he's here, and he just keeps performing against the likes of Haro, who's a former world champion.
And not only Yike, I think we also have to talk about Aika in this case as well. I mean, Aika was the man who couldn't be killed.
It's cool to see that they actually, Aika pulled the Veigar bans in the beginning of the group stage, never showed it, and in this first game of a best of 5, they're like, okay, we're just gonna wait, we'll see what you actually draft. The entire comp, Veigar is the angle, and it was the angle because you can see like you could even build this champion a little bit more tanky because you're scaling on the AP, and they even didn't get him down on 1 or 2 items. So very well played from that mid jungle from LDLC, and it's so important against X7 that your mid jungle is performing well.
Yeah, with that, I want to round out Game 1. Looking at Game 2, X7 has chosen red side. What are you hoping to see from them?
I think they definitely want some more stable solo lane options as well. I think if you get your bot lane in a position where they won't get 2v2 killed either, that also helps immensely. This, to me, was a very disjointed X7 composition that we don't usually see. They do either two things, right? The thing where we just say, okay, we're playing for side lanes. Jaeger on a champion like the Akali, or they just go, let's play the stable team fighting. This one was a little something we hadn't seen before. I wanted to keep it simple. The early facilitation for Haro, Jarvan, Volibear, the things we know them for.
The question is, can the NLC champions strike back in Game 2? It's time to get into picks and bans with our casters.
Thank you again, Coolian and crew. Interesting thoughts there from the desk. Gulborg saying he thought that was perhaps a little bit of a non-X7 style draft.
Well, you know, I mean, if it is going to be Strikes Back, that means that that game was a new hope, and Strikes Back was the better movie, so I'm expecting a better showing from X7 in this one. But I mean, whatever. Okay, segues and all the rest of it aside, I do think that X7, again, have to really hammer home how they had a certain checklist to the early game. They only got it about half done, wasn't quite done there. The storm was not quite stormy enough. LDLC got to that point where they just managed to get to the point where they could fight off the dives.
Yeah, and honestly, I have a few question marks where it comes to, you know, looking at the bot lane for X7, especially. We've seen Nata with a few whoopsies, a few missed positions, and right here, it's mostly on Nata because Kasing, he's playing Yumi. There's only so much you can navigate.
Yeah,
exactly. There's only so much you can navigate into the game, but there were like 2 crucial mistakes from Nata, overextending a little bit. He gets punished in the lane. They get the 2v2 kill onto Nata, and then the game-breaking fight where 3v5 is very difficult. We mentioned how LDLC later in the game. You can't really beat them in their own game, but now the sides have been swapped, and traditionally, LDLC would most likely go for a Viego blue pick, B1 pick, because it's something that they prioritize heavily, especially knowing that X7 plays heavy dive.
Worth pointing out, of course, the last time out, we saw X7 ban away the Ahri from Ica, but there is a world where you ban it again and say, okay, well, if you don't have that option, you won't be able to go towards that Viego-Ahri combo. They can first pick the Viego here, should they so wish, and it's certainly something we've seen from them before. Hovering, of course, the ever-present Rengar, which has been a bit of a hover for a few of these teams around about, but there is that Ahri
Strap
first pick.
yourselves in. Another offering has been made to the Shrine of Ahri, which I am very, very excited for.
Where do I leave from?
No, get that way.
So,
Go on.
I'm looking at the
go on,
exit.
center stage. But I do think
guys.
that my only opinion. Being an Ahri main in this split, being a caster it has been a quite sad experience. There've been some less good games. I do think though the caveat there is though LFL teams really play the pick quite well. LDLC, when they played this, have played it pretty well. Karmine Corp, also another team which I look at and say, hey, this is someone that is the champion that they can pilot very, very effectively. So even though this is a blind pick, even though you don't know the exact role it's going to have in the composition, I trust LDLC to more than other teams to craft something around it.
Ooh, I was about to say here, you either take the Viego or you take the Jarvan yourself. But the problem is playing Jarvan into the Ahri is a little bit difficult, but you also want to take it away because your ADC is playing Jinx. And it's just really difficult to play into the Jarvan when you play Jinx. But from what I'm seeing right now, X7 are changing their gears completely. They're the ones going towards the more kiting composition, playing back, trying to go for resets. Both Viego and Jinx are great when it comes down to resets. And I'm expecting that you pick this to take away the Viego, 1. And 2, you most likely already know what you play in the mid lane, which is going to be Tencel Blanc.
Sure enough. And of course, we have seen a fair amount of versatility from the side of X7 across EU Masters thus far. We've seen crazy Soraka bots with full heal comps. We've seen Diana Yasuo. We saw what we saw last game. We have seen some versatility from them, so I'm not entirely surprised to see them shifted up entirely. LDLC, though, they've got X-Kick back on that Aphelios, which he was very comfortable on the last game. They're thinking about a Shen here, which would be interesting, but it's not. It's only a hover right now, so we'll wait and see whether it's more like the Ornn, which, of course, is a strong pick for Ragnar. Don't break it. This is feeling pretty standard for them right now.
Okay, so there's a little bit different. So now X7 say, okay, we tried the whole diving thing. That didn't work quite as well. And I do think actually...
Copy their homework, just don't make it very obvious.
Don't make it so obvious. But I think what X7 do now is they control areas very, very well. You know that if you are going to dive into this trio, very, very dangerous, much like what LDLC actually ended up eventually crafting in their composition in that last game. I do think an important factor of that last game, though, is that even though Ragnar fell behind a little bit, X7 really never turned the screws any further than just the first play or two. The Ornn got to survive, got to have those Call of the Forge gods, which were very important in catching out, like Nata, who went up into that river that one time where he got caught out, which led to the huge snowball from LDLC. So Ragnar kind of saying, look, you tried to shut me down that last game, didn't work. I'm going to pick something which is always going to be high value if I'm not completely shut out of that game. Let's see if you can do it in game 2.
All right. Well, we've got ourselves some lock-ins right now. We've still got to pick up... 3 of them a team, in fact. Yeah, well done. Yes, that's exactly what we have. But we've still got to pick up a jungler for Yike, who's not picked one up as yet. And we've still got supports to think about here as well.
I was about to say that Yike is about to play his first unique champion out of Kha'Zix, Viego, Jarvan, and Xin. He will play his first unique right now, and we're wondering what this one is going to be, because there is not much left on the table when it comes to like the top S tier junglers, and he has pulled out the Kha'Zix, so there might be more of that fun stuff.
Indeed.
Exactly, more of the spice coming in. Now the question is, if that's not a Renata ban, which it is,
there you go.
I'm going to default to my thoughts saying Kasing, probably on Rakan. He has a 100% win rate in the NOC. He provides great disengage, great engage together with the Viego as well. You can actually use it as a tool to go in. But the thing is,
you can also Nautilus.
You could, because you've seen the top lane. But I would say that maybe it's more valuable to go right here for your support to not get the Rakan taken away. But it's not going to be the case.
Okay, so this is a different thing. This is the Scion, which is likely going towards that top lane, and this is what X7 smashed. And like, underselling on that.
Go for it.
All of those big adjectives against Karmine Corp. They had 0 kills in that game, 30-0 in the scoreline, and it was Jaeger on the Scion, eventually getting towards a hull breaker, and no one could displace that champion in the side lane. Now you have an Ornn, you have a Lee Sin, which are trying to fight against this champion. The Lee Sin is the last one I saw on that table, because you with Ahri Lee Sin, very high tag access, potential to kill someone like the Veigar if they step out of position too, but how are you going to deal with the Scion? If you get up to two items on that Scion with a hull breaker, with whatever else at that point, and they get ahead of that curve. 1 kill early in this game. Well, it didn't work out for the Aatrox as still on the last time.
There it
is. It's going to be very difficult.
To those at home.
Braum makes so much sense here. You've got 1, 2, 3 melee champions playing into you. Braum is really favored when he plays against melee bot lanes as well. Leona's going to be walking
you're not
into
a chance.
So Nata gets the passive popped really easily. And then later on, the problem that you mentioned was the Call of the Forge gods from the Ornn. This is going to get blocked by Kasing's shield.
Absolutely, and good to hear that from the comp. Bit of fun behind the scenes knowledge there as well. The Pantheon Hover is a shout out to the NLC host Archerom, and of course, Katarina. Trouble is a Katarina.
I'm just going
Why
to
didn't they
say-
hover the Ari?
Yeah,
Sam?
well, that might be because
Listen.
it's locked in right over there.
I'm just going to say, Katarina hovers have 100% win rate so far.
That's it.
In this tournament.
That's
We
it.
won't
Your
mention
powers-
ours
In this tournament.
domestically.
In this tournament.
Are not to be trifled with. We've seen the drafts here. It's a very different look again from X7. You called out the sign. The Veigar is this time in the hands of Tempt. LDLC, though, bit more playmaking, but still a similar kind of team fight comp with a bit more pick.
But when LDLC lost domestically, my read on that was that they had a team which didn't just kind of by default win the later the game went on, and then they didn't have the aggressive nature to really get ahead of the curve to secure their own strength later into that game. I think this might be more along that sort of lines. I think when you got the 5-man unit from X7, which are very happy to go into that late game, maybe this is preying on some of LDLC's few weaknesses they've shown elsewhere.
I think right here we sort of like swap the two teams if you take
Indeed.
the nameplates off, but I'm gonna put the nameplates back on because we are heading onto the Reef for the second game in this best of 5 series between LDLC and X7. Initialize, I yoinked your job right there.
You did. That's fine. I'll forgive you this time. It's
All
going to
right,
be okay. It's in your name to be Trouble to me. I already had this problem. Again, I'm casting with my brother and a woman named Trouble. It was always going to be an experience. What do you know? I'm going to take the second, though, because obviously the last game we didn't really get a chance because it exploded into fights as we brought the graphic up. But Tempt versus Ica was a matchup we were very excited for. And then that last game, we saw some good stuff from Tempt early, but then Ica just went off on the Veigar.
Okay, but speaking of that Veigar and stuff, obviously there is going to be the Predator on this Veigar, which gives you a little more ability to roam towards those side lanes and get to that play a little quicker. Another thing that's very important to note is, of course, an exhaust coming in for the Braum. So you're looking to play a lot more passively on the back foot towards bot lane and just say, look, if you're trying to fight us, you're not getting through the Braum, you're not going to get that first person diving in. And if you've got that Predator who is going to use that very, very well in terms to get to that play, to say, look, we're buying time with the exhaust to get the Predator to come there quicker. X7, again, I can see how they're looking to play around both sides.
They've
Oh, they
just
have
found
not.
it. There
They
we
have
go.
not.
They do get a hold of that one. It's a late invade. Have to see whether it'll come and defend it. Yike has rotated down towards it, so it will be a fight for the level 1. But this is into Braum. I don't know how much LDS it wants, but look,
Well, maybe
Ragnar's
if you
here as
bring the
well.
whole team, maybe if you bring the
Absolutely.
whole team, it will work because
45,
Veigar's
but
not
there's the
mid lane.
Braum.
All right, Ragnar is going to be there. They'll get that knock up, though. What a stun. And Tempt is going to come through on the anchor as well. Kasing may need to flash, does get over the wall. Flash for flash right now. And everyone survives. Red buff is successfully defended. Teleport top from Ragnar.
So what's blown here? Because we have one flash from the side of DOS, we have Ragnar's teleport, and on the other side we have Kasing's flash and Haru's flash. But the good news, if you're an X7 fan, is that Haru is pathing top side, and Ragnar does not have his teleport up and available, so maybe we could potentially see shenanigans where you punish the Ornn and you get him super far behind in lane, which is what you mentioned happened in that Command Corp game where the Sion completely snowballed out of control. But I feel like the most important thing to keep in mind is that when you're playing in that 1v1 matchup in the jungle where somebody's playing Lee Sin into you, you want to be able to make the plays, right? Losing your flash early on for Haru, it's going to be the go button for Yike to try and find him in the
but
jungle.
I really want to zero back in on what could happen top lane because Lee Sin has the option to go red, Raptors, Gromp. They have the quicker level 3. They get towards top side quicker. You don't have the option of skipping as many camps as the Viego, and that's why Yike is currently just a few seconds ahead of their opposing number, and Ica with that prio early on gets to get some vision on the other side. The thing is that by seeing him not doing Raptors, you still know his pathing by process elimination.
Stun from DOS, trying to keep Exik alive because that was a passive, very nearly stopped, but the Wind Spike will now land onto DOS, who gets stunned up, but it's just health bars being traded, nothing much more, and then top side, indeed. There is Yike. Ike is roaming as well. Haru is still on this rub buff, secures it, will now be spotted out, and that means that Yike is given free reign to go in on this. The knockup is there, into the Sonic Wave. Resonating Strike comes through, Jaeger flashes, it'll force a flash out of Yike, and he'll get right back out with a safeguard. First blood to LDLC.
But this is quite basic. You understand you've been delayed in your jungle clear. You understand that Lee Sin is going to get towards top side first. And while Jaeger got the early push, seems like a miscommunication between Jaeger and the rest of the team. Somewhere in that communication chain, something's broken down. LDLC take a very simple first blood top side.
They do indeed, and of course we're going to have to talk about bot lane instead, because big engage from DOS. Kasing now taken over, they exhausted down, but he has no flash. Anata trying to step forward to get onto XK, but he's run out. There's the heal. He flashes into the bush, out of vision. Flash away from Nata. Here comes Haru, gonna try and turn it around. There's a Spectral Maw, still not enough, and DOS gets that one. It's a 2 for none right now, and LDLC are running away with this early game.
And yet again, the LDLC bot lane absolutely absolutely dominant towards the bot side of the map. They only cashed in on 1 kill in the previous game. Now they take both Nata and Kasing down with them, delaying Haru in his jungle here as well because he has to hold the way for them. It's absolutely a disaster
They've got
for
no
X7.
summoners here. There's no mana on DOS, but Haru can't quite make it work, and Kasing wasn't there quite in time, so momentary hype delayed. We'll go back to this replay.
Okay, wait, which one is it showing? Okay, it's going to go towards this bot side. And, yeah, this is that double Zenith blade, gets right on top of Nana, and while Kasing does have that shield, you're level 2. You don't have the ability to, like, even buff up everyone's defenses with the stand behind me. Gets out level, doesn't have the flash, and LDLC's bot lane, as you said, just find another great window to punish X7's 2v2.
And I feel like when it comes to LDLC, we mentioned how they like to play the early games a little bit slow. I would say I'm really surprised with the way that they're not only matching X7's aggression and punishing it, but they're creating their own through bot lane pressure every single time. LDLC's bot lane, Exakick and DOS have one-upped Nata and Kasing back-to-back in 2 games. And if that Aphelios was a problem later on in the previous game, now he already is. He's up CS, he's up experience, he has more gold. There's one more pickaxe. There's one pickaxe more than the 2 longswords that Nata has in his pocket, and this is going to be extremely problematic.
And then kind of zooming this out again, because obviously in the series, you see that LDLC, first game, really ran away with it after a series of mistakes. It happens even earlier on in this game, and this is meant to be a series between what we consider to be tournament favorites before this. And LDLC, they went undefeated in that group stage. Of course, X7 dropped 1 game in the regular group stage games, and then also dropped themselves that tiebreak to Carmine Core as well, but still looked strong. But LDLC kind of getting such a large gap advantage between them and X7, so much more than I had expected.
At least it is for now. Of course, still got a lot of this game to play out. Still only 1,000 or so, well, 1,500, let's be fair at this point, towards LDLC, which is significant at this point in the game, but there's a lot more to play out, and X7 do scale pretty well, but more plays like this, where Jaeger gets interrupted by a flash from Ragnar, puts him into a very difficult position, gonna try and get that decimating smash. It might be a 1-for-1 though! Jaeger gets away with it, and in that 1v2, he gets a kill on the board for X7.
And he gets to push the wave. You have that zombie passive, no teleport of course on Ragnar, means that it's still gonna be the Ornn losing out even more individually. So Jaeger, though he's fallen prey to a couple of plays, still ahead of the curve.
No teleports available. That means it's just a straight dive. All the summoners were burnt earlier as well. It's just dead to right. Exakick is kicked down.
That's a pretty well executed dive from X7. We saw that the top lane play. Wow, okay, Jaeger taking that 1v2. Well, of course that means there's a number advantage elsewhere, and X7 pull off the cross map, and it's that Aphelios who we praised so much in that 2v2 has a bit of help being pushed down.
So there's a few things happening on the map right now, because if you look at bot side, there's a huge cannon wave that's going to be pushing in underneath the tower. Aphelios is not going to lose too much, especially if DOS holds the wave right here. So the Aphelios is going to be fine, even with that trade, because he has that 1 kill banked into his pocket, right? But if you look onto the top side, Yike has banked in on 2 kills. Now the pressure falls on him, right? Because he has the gold and he has the experience from these 2 kills. He is the playmaker early on, the guy onto the Lee Sin that needs to find the kicks, that needs to find the backline access, that needs to keep snowballing the victories in the early game push that they had. While on the top side of the map, Ragnar doesn't care if he goes down. He's playing the Ornn. Doesn't matter if he has the experience or the gold. Later on, when they get to scale and play the team fights, the ornaments are going to come through. The big chunky wall of having the Ornn as a front line is going to come through. And I feel like X7 are sort of falling behind right here.
Bit of just positioning in this mid lane right now. We have got a Herald that spawned in. Yike right now on another early game impact champion. They're going to get some roams off here. You've seen the list here. Add the Lee Sin on top of that, and Yike has made things happen early on for LDLC here.
But the way that he's typically done that in my reading was, again, just kind of like making sure that Aker is getting into the game. It's been very different in this game, where he has been getting those ganks in, getting those kills on the board early. It's been a little bit different look from what I'd seen more typically from this player. Do you want to quickly go back to something that you were saying, Trouble, in terms of, like, Ragnar doesn't really care if he's going down on that Ornn. Normally I'd agree, because Ornn is such a cost-efficient champion. It's just in this game, when you can see that that's actually a hull breaker being built up by Jaeger on the Scion a little earlier, I wonder if you give up 1 more of those, whether this game becomes very, very unplayable because your side lanes just don't exist and Scion becomes too hard to displace from them.
Not the easiest tank killing in a side lane 1v1 with the draft that LDLC have. While this was happening, of course, Yike did secure the Herald. There was no contest from X7. I'm not sure they really got all that much in the way of plate bot side, so it feels like a pretty straight-up win for LDLC. Haru will now start up the Infernal Drake, though, and that might be a delayed trade.
He's going to start the Infernal Dragon, especially because LDLC's bot side 1 DOS was resetting, so he wasn't on the bot lane, and 2 Exakick is being pushed underneath the tower with an entire wave. First tower plating on the bot side is going to go to the side of X7 as well, and they do technically have numbers advantage as well, because Tempt has moved first from the mid lane.
Yike does manage to dodge away from most of the CC there, takes a Dark Matter, but doesn't walk into the walls of the event horizon, so just zoning him out for potentially going from a steal. That's about it. It is Jaeger will take this opportunity to teleport back topside with a Hull Breaker first.
That's it. I was just about to point that out. We have that. You know what that means, sadly? Ornn is no longer able to play this game. Like, I saw the option there.
Is that the Forge Fire? Is that what that is?
That's the call of the Forge God trying to
he
cook
did
up.
fire bomb his
He's got the
Cinder.
He does. But I mean, at this point, I mean, you are really going to struggle to hold that lane. We can see that there were a couple of individually okay plays and trades coming in, but at this point, you are going to be stuck under your tower for the rest of the game.
Well, when we were fighting over which analyst would get a hold of the Telestrator, I feel like I should have given it trouble after that, because clearly you can't be trusted. Already setting everything on fire here, both literally and graphically, as Jaeger tanks up a couple turret
Yeah, you
shots.
don't want these.
He's
Come
just
on.
proxy farming at this point. He's got a blast go. He's going to walk away.
He has to be
Okay.
extremely careful though, because if you look in the mid lane, Aika is pushing the lane. He starts hovering towards the top side of the map. Yike onto the Lee Sin is towards the top side of the map as well. And yes, even though he might get away with a kill or when the Ornn and the Lee Sin is there, add the R into the mix, add that AP damage into the mix, and you might end up going down. You definitely don't want that, especially when you're that ahead.
You just probably could see kind of like some public service announcement kind of advert just being like split push responsibly. You know, you still need to have that amount of
Hull breaker.
What are you guys doing?
Hull breaker, split push responsibly.
All right. If
This
you-
and other
listen,
products.
Is this how you advertise patch changes? Just like random adverts in patch notes. I'm down for this. We've got a mid lane shove though, and LDLC are all here. Temp gets stunned. Ica goes forward for the charm, but Kasing is there to try and buy some time. That will keep the mid laner alive, and now they're going to have to back out of the dive, but they're still going to get the Herald come in and secure 4 plates. Ica hops forward, but he's safe to do so.
Again, you can see the LDLC bringing a lot of members mid, trying to secure that lane. If they get this mid outer turret, suddenly that side lane pressure gets harder to, again, push responsibly, because you're going to lose out on vision, you're going to lose out on that territory. It hasn't happened right now. There's no vision from LDLC on the other side of the river. As soon as that mid lane turret does go down, with it that low HP, you have to imagine it will do at some point. Game gets harder for X7 as much as they have the building blocks of something very strong in that Sion getting ahead.
And as much as you can't control sideless anymore once the mid lane tower falls, you also don't have a safe lane for your Jinx and Veiga to push forward and try to get the waves. But Haru is possibly looking for Ica, doesn't have the ult.
Doesn't have the ult, but there is a Spectral Morph, forces a flash out of the RE. Nice little gank there from the former world champion.
Okay, so now you have Flash and Veiga. You can flash forward for a cage. You don't get out of that unless you have the flash yourself. So LDLC, as much as they committed a lot towards that mid lane, potentially not able to do the second part of that plan to take down that turret. And you have Demolish, you have a Hull Breaker, you have a Jaeger who is laughs at your structures.
They're going to try and stop him from getting that auto. Does still get it. That is the 4th plate. Goes unstoppable with his own ultimate and will happily trade that out for the turret plate.
What a noodle fight.
Okay, so I was casting with Duckling some of these
I know
fights
where
in
you're
the
going
group
with
stage.
this.
This is it's gotten to the point because you've got all the burn damage. It's not even just like the wet noodle fight. It's like a noodle pot. Like you're getting these spicy noodles. Like, and you've got a delivery for lunch.
All I'm
throwing
saying
them
is,
out.
Duckling's response was, those are some very overcooked noodles. And I completely agree, because that is a very long time you're waiting on those noodles.
You know how they get like more like soggy the more you cook them? At this point, like the whole pot is just like
It's just
noodle
mush.
mass.
Yeah. Noodle porridge. What a disgusting thought I've left everyone else with there.
I mean, come on.
I'm sorry. We're moving away. It's my fault. I apologize to those eating right now. You probably don't want to be anymore. Gonna see LDLC starting to roam towards this bot side, though, and Nata and Kasing need to be a little afraid of a dive. There's no teleports available.
Yeah, and the very important thing is that there is no teleports available for X7. That means they actually need to walk through the jungle. You see how Tempt needs to be so careful, and he's pinging around the jungle because they don't know exactly where Yike and Ica are. And if that Veiga gets caught, he will very easily go down super fast. And on the other side of the map, you see that Jaeger, you mentioned, Namera, he wants to
it's
split, but
mid
he
lane
doesn't
now.
care too much about the teleport.
Yeah, this is the
Right,
two-stage
that's
plan.
it.
Lee Sin has a lot of burst.
But here comes Kasing. They can try and turn it around. He gets the glacial fissure to try and turn it around. Yike now having to get out in danger as well. Those Braum passives in the jungle could be pretty terrifying, but it's just the flash out of Haru, and that's all that's won there.
Okay.
X7 defend it well enough.
So let's see what's happening on these side lanes. You got one tower going down on one side, and as much as I
close.
appreciate your
Oh,
efforts
there
right
it
now,
is.
I mean, you can see that happening. Let's see what happens on the bot side too. If Elios is pushing in towards that turret,
Jaeger now in a bit of that wet noodle fight, coming towards the end of its cooking time, perhaps. Does avoid that pillar, and the bot side, they are going to get the shove in, and that will be Gold into exit kick, and we saw what he did with Gold in the last game, namely run over every single team fight he was in.
So we saw a lot of things happen in the last minute, focusing in on what happened in the bot side jungle. This is the part of the game where it gets difficult when you lose control of mid lane. You lose that vision across that jungle. You've got, of course, a lot of vision kind of cropping up here. Look, see if Jinx has been spotted on the roam. You're going to have the wave pushed in here. That's a whole side of the map which you don't have control on now, which means it's going to be harder to avoid fights. And you have a fellow with that amount of gold. If you're not avoiding those fights, you're certainly losing them.
Massive level discrepancy here between Haru and Yike as well. That is 2 levels.
That is a 2-0 Lee Sin, by the way, and this is the price you pay for trying to continuously make plays, especially when you're 2-0.
That's even Horizon. Yike is in a lot of trouble. And then we finished that word up correctly, as I got a little bit tongue-tied momentarily. Either way, he does get out with having to burn, I think, is quickly enough away, but X7 onto this Dragon will be their second of the game. Yike will be around, flash out of the Solar Flare and the Zenith Blade. It will now come down to a smite fight, secured by Haru, though, who doesn't miss that. Jaeger on the other side, though, comes in with an unstoppable force. It's blocked out by Dos. The charm lands. They're now trying to flash away, and X7 cannot secure any kills. It is a Dragon and no deaths, at least thus far.
That is 2 dragons secured, though, and this is the win condition for X7 right now. You've stuck 2 of them. Kasing!
He's gonna get hit by the Forge God. The door is down, goes Golden, but I don't know if he's got a way out. Can he get close enough to Nata? Throws down the exhaust of the Glacial Fissure. Stays alive, and now the turnaround can come through. Tempt is here as well. Yike does not go down. He's shut down by Jaeger. 2 already. Tempt gets Ragnar on top. Massive win for X7 as they tried to punish LDLC, who go too deep. A Spectral Maw stuns up Dos. He's trying to get away. Ika gets an Everfrost into the decimating smash. Haru is the one who secures the kill, though, and X7 come out on top.
And it's LDLC this time that go a little too far. They end up diving. S-Kick is under tower. He's got himself okay weapons, but no ultimate.
As a teleport 5, they can try. They're going to come in a 3v1 at least for now. No mana. He's got Gravitum and Severum and not much else. They'll start walking him down towards what was their tower. Of course, it fell earlier in the game, and that's going to give it over, I suspect, to Nata.
So that's going to be the fellows going down and revisiting whatever the heck happened in all of that phase of play. You can see that, again, LDLC, I think they made the right choice at the start of this. You want to force those fights. Stop X7 avoiding the 5v5s. You have a Hull Breaker on your side. He's not going to be the strongest team fight frontline. You lose a lot of that value when you're too close to the teammates. Jaeger, though, found a right angle to get to be a frontline, whilst also not being within that Hull Breaker range. LDLC lose that fight, and then for some reason stick around for an extra part of it.
He's got no flash, he's got a Solar Flare, and not a lot of damage left to him. Does survive, but until the Primordial bursts into straight back to the Stone Age. It's a grey screen for Dos.
And I feel like I agree with everything you said, Nightmare, but it's also, I feel like, the pressure on Yike. He cashed in on these 2 kills very early on. You're playing the least, you're playing the playmaker, you're trying to use your advantage. You've now fallen 2 levels behind. You need to make a play. You need to be proactive, because that Lee Sin is as useful as he's gonna be right now. He's as useful as a kick onto a very important carry. And as you can see here, I feel like it's all up to Kasing. He absorbs so much pressure. Beautiful stopwatch on the Ornhorn right here. And as you can see, Nata is on the side as well. Puts down the jumpers. He's going to eat away onto the Viego. And once you see these resets coming through, when Yike goes down, Nata gets excited. He's able to get back into the fight. They're pushing forward with Haru resets as well. Now he has the Lee Sin, and you can see how the snowball effect begins. And again, this is an X7 where it's like, I'm gonna copy LDLC's homework, but I'm not gonna make it very obvious. And now LDLC's into pressure to pushing into the jungle. X7 are playing the kiting call.
Haru has the second Herald inventory. It's Everfrost. Everfrost trade Naker had to flash out of that before he got in range for a Primordial Burst kill. As Dos is very deep without a lot of help. He is so far up the creek, and the only paddle is the paddle in X7 are given to him this game.
Don't get me wrong, this vision's important, but you're going so far into this, and I get that LDLC, again, want to force X7 to the fight, want to get that vision into the enemy jungle. If you're looking about what's happening across the map, they've got themselves the mid lane out of turret. They have a way to play with their vision.
They're going to go straight back out. Yike will avoid the Glacial Fissure. Ika is going to throw down the ultimate into a Call of the Forge God, which is swiftly stalled out by a very large storm. Unstoppable force, not quite in range, gets charmed up, but he's so damn tanky. Event Horizon goes wide, but a kill going to land onto Yike, who gets out. Mercury Treads are a fine item. Nata, though, on the killing spree. Who cares how lane goes when you can start pulling off kills like that? Haru steals away the Ornn and now gets out. They can't secure the mid lane tier 2, but they'll take the kill, they'll take the mid lane tier 1, and they'll get out of dodge.
And again, LDLC with the aggression. Ica tries to push the top side of the map. He loses his flash. Dos tries to play aggressively to put down the vision for them on the top side of the map. He loses his life. Then LDLC overextend to try to make a play with Yike onto the Lee Sin. They get instantly punished. X7 are on point right now.
Okay, but where's the recovery from LDLC? Because you can see actually they're starting to move up, of course, into that top lane. That's what they tried to put their vision down. They've already taken this lane. It was a lot invested for it. At least at the back end of the play, they managed to at least get something on that top side of the map, but it's not even taking down the turret yet. Jaeger did such a great job of defending it in the laning phase. It's not even scratched yet.
What that delay cost was a teleport from Ica, and of course it's 30 seconds until the mountain soul point for X7. They're in position. Jaeger will be in a 1vx scenario, but he's got Hullbreaker and a second item. They've cleared out the waves. He's going to do so much damage back. They finally clear out the turret, but this is a bloody tanky Sion. He's going to try and play his way out of this one best he can. Gets kicked into the wall, but he's buying so much time at this point. He'll have a zombie afterwards as well. Does a lot of damage. The charms come through. He goes unstoppable. Gets stopped up. Decimating Smash is dashed away from. And he finally falls. All the while on the bot side, X7 shoving in. Going to get this mid lane tier 2.
Look onto the map right now. He stalled for so long. Both mid and bot are pushing. Mid lane tower is actually falling. And the next objective on your maps is going to be that dragon spawning, because it's going to be soul point for X7. And if they were tanky to begin with, now with Mountain Soul in 5 minutes, they're going to be even tankier. LDLC are on a big timer.
I know the Sion has become a bit of a meme in recent seasons, but that was a good death. Question is, how much can you get? The LDLC are trying to, again, ratchet up the tempo, force X7 to come to them, and they're doing it through the
Nata can't walk forward himself. It's the Sing that eats the Char now. Ica is on half HP. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for him to survive this. Glacial Fissure onto Ica, but Haru has to ultimate away with the Heartbreaker. They're going to cut the flash out of Kasingu, try to get a pick onto Ica, but Baron is stopped, and that's about it.
And serious credit to LDLC for, again, even though they've taken some bad fights, again, try and force X7 away from the strong parts of their composition. However, in this game, X7 are keeping themselves abreast of this pressure which LDLC are putting onto them, forcing themselves to make these decisions in the correct timing. And now X7, soul point, got themselves to huge items, got themselves a gold lead. We may be looking at LDLC's first loss in the entire tournament.
They are 7-0 thus far. They're the LFL first seed. They are from the region who are the reigning champions of the Amazon EU Masters, even if they are not the champions themselves. Karmine Corps playing, of course, later in the week. Either way, this is an organization with incredible pedigree, from a region with incredible pedigree, who have been playing with a level of class at this tournament, which made them a front runner for the whole damn thing. X7 looking to bite back in this second game, though, and a very good position to do so.
And I really love what X7 is doing right now, because they're putting Jaeger towards the top side of the map, because they know that this is going to be the closest to Baron. But X7 does not necessarily have to push the Baron, because then if they group themselves up inside the pit, then they give LDLC a big open to try and get the pick on them. All they have to do is lay down their vision, put that Sion back onto the Ornn. You see the teleport onto Jaeger is going to come up really swiftly, and the LDLC are back onto the game. They're trying to get the vision towards the Baron, trying to bait X7 to walk into that.
The other thing is as well, why do you take the Baron? So you can take towers. You are already taking towers because you have a Sion with Hullbreaker who is this far ahead. So again, part of the allure of Baron is being able to close out the game. X7 are already starting to get these advantages put to each other. They don't need to threaten anything. They don't need to put themselves at risk. You already said the geography of that pit already not great when you're on red side against so much target access and everything else. But LDLC looking to still pick off X7. Find a way, because again, one pick could lead into a Baron for them. They're not out yet. They are at a slight disadvantage, but to get that one pick, it will change in a moment.
Very dark red side jungle for X7 right now. Just trying to fight for a way in. LDC were lurking. Thank you, observers, for the view right now. It is currently quite dark. Haru finally gets
Scenic sights on Summoner's Rift.
Ica could look for a bit of a pick here, but Temp will be around. I don't know how much he'd want this.
Looking for it, they catch the charm.
There's Yike, gonna get massive damage back out. Don't quite get the kill though. Yike is only about to survive. Goes into Haru. I can't quite secure the kill. Now Temp's in trouble as well. The Korean LCK duo are dead It's double over to Ica now with 2 members dead, including your jungler. LDLC can retreat back to Baron.
And what did we say? It's the one pick and everything can change off that X7. They're gonna be forced to go towards this Baron. I think you can let this one go. Jaeger has the ult, but LDLC, somehow, some way, they find their moment.
All right, LDLC in the 5 versus 2. Jaeger not here at this point. They're going to try and come in. There is the ultimate to get here in time. Charm goes wide. A lot of damage into the pit, though. Remember what Danny did over in the LCS. Can Nata do the same? But not yet. He's trying to survive best he can. Look at Exa kicks. Shurikens flying everywhere. 2 more down. A shutdown for Yike. Jaeger gets out, but everyone else from X7 fell in that
Actually, you
force
know
buffet.
what really leads into that? Remember how much effort LDLC put in towards that top lane turret just those minutes ago? Committed that teleport, even after the lost fight. It leads to this vision, which leads to these picks, which leads a way back into the game for them.
And that was complete impatience by Haru right there, because he knew the lurking was happening for 3 minutes straight on that top side of the map. The only reason that Haru was hovering around was because he was allowing Temp to push top side, but he's not there anymore. You do not have to walk in there, you do not have to give your life. It was Nata and Kasing in the previous game giving up their lives, giving the Baron to LDLC, which LDLC stopped their I'm out of words.
I was like, where are you going with this trouble? The screen did a talking for you.
They wanted to stop their progress.
I got you, there we go.
But it was that Baron that stopped X7's progress and then put LDLC ahead, and then they completely ended the game. And the same story could be done here, because remember what Amara said. You've got a Sion on a side lane. People are struggling to lane against the Sion. He's pushing the waves. Now you've got Baron up minions. It's much easier to shove in the Sion. Now Jaeger's underneath his tower.
Yeah, but look where the rest of X7 are. I don't think they can actually do this. Jaeger takes next to no damage from the Ahri right there. And we've got about 40 seconds just over until what would be Mountain Soul for X7, but they are shoved in under their tier 2s at this point, with the Baron still in full force. LDLC in full control of the map.
And what this does mean is that, of course, LDLC get all of those structures, to get all that gold with it, and suddenly, whereas before there were slight margins of error, which X7 were really exploiting to just avoid the full-on 5v5, not give up that first pick, not get burst out. LDLC have that many more stats to do this in now.
Look at Ica's TP top side of the map. He's flanking.
He's trying to get in here, but on the other side, they're going to try and pincer the pincers. Dots taken so down low, goes down. Primordial Burst gets him. Nata is the trade out, though, and now Temp's in trouble on the other side. He's flashing away the other side, trying to get away. Exa kick is dead, and now Haru has his weapons ready to flash. Through kick from Yike, though, into the event horizon. It's a damn close fight. Haru alive for now. Temp trying to get a hold of Ragnar, and Jaeger is still there as well. Temp trying to get away from the bellows. Breath, Ica still alive into the event horizon. Double kill from that Dark Matter, and X7 win the fight.
Huge fight for X7. Very clever teleport from Ica to try and get onto the flank. But Nata managed to get 1 kill before he died, which was so crucial. This is going to be Mountain Soul for X7. And even though the Baron went completely south for them, this is right now their win condition.
And it is such a fine balancing act when you're going for these big flank plays. You see what they're trying to pull off with the Ahri, and imagine we're going to see this in this replay. See that Ahri goes from one side of them to the other, tries to get that pincer, but X7 find the window and say, all right, we're fighting, let's go in. And the first kill is already gone. Your first reset already in effect. I mean, the only thing which stops this being a complete blowout is Nata gets picked off very, very early into this play. Temp doesn't need any of these high mobility champions. What are those? He's got more than enough mobility with those 2 little feet of his on the Veigar, and Veigar stays alive, and that's the real big DPS which comes out of the back of this.
Stick those dancing shoes on. He's not just a tiny master of evil, he's a tiny master of the tango as well. Get him a tango skin. Make him join TF and Evelyn.
So here's the thing right now. Nata got picked on really early into this fight. Your AD carry dies. Exa kick dies in this fight. Your AD carry dies. But the problem for LDLC is you do not have any other carry with consistent damage. You've got Listen with burst AD, and you've got Ahri with burst AP. Whilst on the other side, you've got Temp.
I'm sniggering because there's an item in inventory which Nymera is very proud of seeing in Ahri's inventories.
Now, I'm not much of a librarian myself, and if I was, they would be filled complete with Magi's, but Ica has picked that one up, and you can see now with 403, thing with getting a Magi's, very cheap legendary item, gives you an extra bump of that mythic stat, and now you get to chuck in an extra 15 AP onto top of that Everfrost. Ica really trying to burst out now.
All right, well, we've got ourselves now with the Mountain Soul, we've got ourselves with some interesting items. It is X7 who probably are favored with this game state right now, but LDLC have already proven in this game they are more than willing to fight their way back in.
And look at exactly how they play the fights. They've got Jaeger and Kasing sort of shielding their carries around the map and how they want to play the team fight. They're not allowing any cues to go through from the Lee Sin, any chance to go through from Ica, and the game will only become more difficult from LDLC unless they find a flank through Fog of War.
And this is why someone like Sion can be so effective at that whole shielding thing you're talking about when you don't have a Jason in the game. When you don't have something like a Corki or another poke ADC like a Xayah, right? Because you can sit there and it's like, what's the worst you're going to eat? Maybe the rifle turrets from the FL is the one thing which you're really worried about. Outside of that, though, X7 can just sit there and say, where's your poke? You don't have any of it. You don't get to play to chunk out the Sion, and the Sion becomes such a difficult thing to avoid.
Trying to get that solar flare down, but DOS on the other side takes so much damage. Haru in a 1v2, happy to step forward. Now Nata's around here as well. Ragnar charging away with the searing charge, but into another Event Horizon. Haru has to go golden though. He takes a lot of damage. Ragnar survives for now. Can't quite get the kill. He's into Ica, does get it. Now needs to steal away the Ornn. He's gonna get back over the wall, but no, not for a searing charging force. We'll have a reset on the ultimate to work with. Yike does get rotated on the other side, but a decimated smash misses. Tempt is there though. Event Horizon flashed away from X, has to burn the heal as well. It's one death right now. Sorry, two, because of course DOS fell as well. And X7, with the jungler forced out and 2 members dead, have got control of the Baron pit.
And when LDLC took their Baron and got that huge golden pocket, we were saying, okay, well, maybe those very close fights beforehand, where the first target does get away on a sliver of HP, maybe that doesn't happen anymore. Well, this is what happens when you give the Mountain Soul back in return. X7 now feel very much emboldened. It doesn't matter, though, the Hull Breaker is deactivated on the Sion. He has got so much HP, and X
Takes so much damage. He's gone. The Primordial Burst deletes him from the Rift. He is removed from the damn code of the game at this point. Ica and Yeljike on the other side. This Imperious mid-jungle from the LFL need to find some magic. Ragnar is coming in. DOS is respawned as well. The HP bars are so low. It will be a smite fight at this point, surely. Can they keep Yike out of the pit? Ica stepping forward. Call of the Forge God. Tempted trouble. Goes golden. Solar Flare timed out. And maybe they've done it. They've stayed too long. They can't clean the Baron. Haru on the other side. Can't get in. LDLC will secure Baron after this as well.
That's it. X7, they go and tank that Baron. All of their damage goes down. Haru's trying to find some way. He's got the ult.
Doesn't have the damage. Ica's a godlike member in this game. He's 24 stacks on the Medjais from 10 to 24 in a blink of an eye.
And then suddenly, that's the Baron gone. Those are respawns, which are still pretty long from LDLC. Can they try and end? You've got the Jaeger. Sion with so many items, so much HP. Does have a little bit of wave clear, but it's against the Baron creeps. X7, they were in such a commanding position.
They can't end. Exakick is on the bot side of the map. I think they're going to be very content in taking that mid lane inhibitor tower, having a point of pressure on the map in the mid lane, and then try to use that Baron once.
Okay,
yeah, Temp can teleport. They could think about going for this. They're going to step forward. They've got respawns coming through. LDLC overstayed. Now they need to be in a little bit of worry, but they won't quite manage to keep it up. Jaeger thought about looking for it. Ragnar gets that top lane tier 2, and we are left with a moment to breathe here.
And I am so impressed with how LDLC managed to zero things down and to say, look, this is the exact play we need to win. How do we go about getting that? And they find a way, once again, second time in this game, where again, on the brink, maybe at the edge of their first loss in this whole tournament, and they still find a way out to a winning scenario. Now, it's not going to be the end of the game. The second time, LDLC really hurting X7's indecision.
But you've got ways that you can actually go for the Baron. Right here, the Q actually expires. So if X7 had stayed inside the pit or towards the bot side, gone for the Baron, stole it, and then maybe members can just walk towards the other side of the map, you see Haru and Kasing would 100% be able to sort of ult through, and then you have Kasing fallen as well. You would sacrifice 2 of your members, yes, but then you would have Baron on 3. And I feel like X7 and Barons is just curse.
And speaking about that last fight, person who was on the edge of that screen was the Ahri. 24 stacks now. All it takes is one good fight with a Medjais, and suddenly you are an incredible threat. Ahri struggles to do damage unless you really do snowball in this game. Medjais helps you do that even more so, and suddenly X7 needs to be very careful of who's caught on those sides.
Elders up.
Unsafe.
Yike steps away from what would have been a decimating smash that could have put him in trouble. Ragnar gets that wave shoved in, but X7 are here in the river. Ica on flank though. Here comes Exakick trying to stay away. Jaeger throws down the Destiny Smack. Watch for Ragnar. Watch for Ike on the other side. Gets a charm in. That's a huge amount of damage. Haru taken so low. Staying alive for now, but X7 so damn low. They have to retreat out. Ragnar and Exika go over the wall. Ike staying alive. Takes some damage though from a Winter's Bite. Now needs to be in danger from this. Sion gets slowed. Elder Dragon taken down low, but Nata at such a low HP bar needs to be afraid. Needs to be so scared. Haru at 5% HP. If that, LDLC can win this fight with the health bars if they can keep that jungler away. Can't get in. Elder Dragon secured, and the burns start flying through. Wings flared, and they are going to wipe the fight on top of it all. That's a game for LDLC, and they move to match point in this series.
And in this game in particular, where X7 found themselves a team comp which maybe could outscale, maybe could fight later into the game, find themselves an advantage, find themselves sold, but LDLC see the path to victory. They see it not just once, they almost give up that advantage. They have to do it twice, and they do it. Find themselves a path to victory.
What exceptional team fighting. What an exceptional Baron hold from LDLC to prevent X7 from taking over the game. They are now at 2-0. They are now one game away from making semi-finals. They are still undefeated. 8-0 right now at the Amazon European Masters.
And we called LDLC to be really good at one particular playstyle, which is be passive in the early game, scale into the late, and teamfight yourself to victory. They played an aggressive early game, 2-0 onto Yike. He continuously was looking for picks together with Aika, and it feels like so far, we've been saying Tempt and Haru, potentially the strongest mid-jungle duo that we have in Amazon European Masters. I think Aika and Yike are making a strong case for themselves because so far they've played so well.
Just amazing stuff right now. My voice needs to hold on for at least one more game though.
5 games?
I'm hoping
5
so.
games.
Got it, it's the reverse sweep. It's coming. I still believe. NLC Copium coming through from the NLC casters right now, holding on, but LDLC looks so damn strong. They're the first seed from the LFL for a region right now. Either way, we are still going to move on to a break here. LDLC on to match point, on the verge of making the semi-finals. Before we analyze that game, though, make sure to check out our Song of the Day, Not Yours by Wave, and Lisa. While we wait for the next game, we'll see you in a minute or two.